Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, first, could I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
Quick staff correction to the minute. We were able to confirm that Commissioner Fowler made the motion and Commissioner Putnam seconded the motion to approve the minutes last time.
So we will, so could I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved. Second.
All right, so Commissioner Hubman made the motion. Alderwoman Sonier did the second. Call for vote?
Alderwoman Sonier,
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett,
Aye.
Commissioner Fowler,
Aye.
Commissioner Hubman,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Chair Bowen,
Aye.
and the motion passes with all present voting aye.
Excellent. All right. We'll now move on to our one action item for the evening, the public hearing, presentation and adoption of the neighborhood plan for the Greaterville and Kings Highway East neighborhoods. Kingsway, thank you. God. My apologies. I just flew in today and I'm pretty tired. I first want to say thank you so much for all the work that people have put in, both staff, residents, and our consultants. We really appreciate all the work and look forward to hearing your report.
Yeah, just give me 15 seconds to make sure we're advancing.
Okay. For anyone online, we're just taking a minute to check on our technical issues.
While we're doing that, I'd like to thank Reverend Ashley and the community for hosting us tonight. Have a treat. While we're waiting, this church is 98 years old, very historic for the Ville and for the neighborhood. So actually, we're speaking of minute to speak of the church.
Great.
See him, so never mind. But a lot with the Ville, a lot of African Americans were really clustered here, redlining. So this particular church, also across the street, Homer G. Phillip, Candy Recreation Center. If you ever see the picture of Muhammad Ali with the famous quote, "The guy on the ground," that guy on the ground is here, and the church. And I mean, so we are pretty big, but also Sumner High School. So, Aaron.
I would like to add that Muhammad Ali was later knocked out by another guy that was trained here, Leon Spinks. It's all about redemption.
We're really excited here tonight. This is one of the first plans we've ever had adopted for these neighborhoods. So while they're getting ready here, the action item tonight is to consider for a public hearing and plan adoption for a neighborhood plan for the Ville, Greaterville, and Kingsway neighborhoods. And this plan comes out of the Plan STL neighborhood planning program. Here, neighborhood planning program that came out of the 2017 Economic Development Sales Plan. We developed a neighborhood planning program. Since then, the neighborhood were prioritized by the Planning Commission. Actually took action as early as 2022, 2023 on setting these 3 neighborhoods, along with several others as the neighborhoods first to do neighborhood planning. The Planning Commission also adopted minimum standards for submittal requirements for plan adoption as well. And then at 2024, we launched a request for proposal, and we began planning in July of 2024 with actually the people advancing the slide here, Hallie Nolan and Leslie Raw on left here, or right to you guys, or the lead behind, and Sunny Holton, I'm sorry too, is the lead behind the planning area along with a lot of community members. So the task is really to create and adopt a neighborhood plan that was very community supportive, and also it collaborated well, it's a very collaborative plan and it sets the foundation for a lot of initiatives that the city, different departments and staff should be, and community partners to be looking forward to and follow. And this plan was heavily guided by a fellowship of friends within the neighborhoods and beyond the neighborhoods, from staff members, residents, third-party organizations who are a footprint here or just want to lend a hand. We were guided by a neighborhood planning committee. We have neighborhood ambassadors, some are here tonight. We had working groups with a number of members of the community, city planning staff, residents, community organizations, the asset, people who represent the library, the school, Taney Recreation Center just across the way, business. So that all was part of the guidance that was influencing this plan. And also, I'll note the concurrent planning process that was going on. It's the Dream Boulevard, led by For the Ville, and yours truly, Aaron Williams as well. That's Ms. Julie in the back as well, For the Ville. And so this planning process actually stemmed the southern half of the planning area. So that's from Vanavender on the east to Kings Highway, where the Urban League is, and the Sweetie Pie hopefully to the west. And so this looked at creating this, enriching the boulevard to be very a cultural framework that will really activate businesses and a lot of activities along the port. And so this is actually the storefront that you see that they opened during this process. That no, you're very proud of that, Aaron. We are very proud of you and also the design of this storefront. It was also a mini museum. So this process did help out with this, and you'll see that reflected in the plan too. And as we talk about the minimum requirements for plan adoption, this plan we find that follows or meets those requirements there. The general requirements, topical coverage, the engagement, and the local and regional coordination. And we're going to go through some of those. And after that, you're going to hear from the Lamar Johnson team, as well as different members who were involved in this planning process before we get to the public hearing. So the general requirements, we're at the neighborhood boundaries. So in this case, that we had the neighborhood boundaries of Natural Bridge from the north, Vanavender to the east, Dr. Martin Luther King Drive to the south, and Kings Highway to the west. And so we also include, you can see on the top right image there, that you have planning also on both sides of a corridor, because a lot of corridors, they divide different neighborhoods, so you want to plan for both aspects on both sides. The engagement, and we're going to go through several of these, and you'll hear from one presentation. We have different standard engagement, focused engagement, and also online and tech engagement that was deployed in this planning process, part of the engagement strategy. So we have the neighborhood planning committee, which is made up of residents and other members of the community that represents different items. So safety, and I'll just note we had the unfortunate passing of Captain Brown in the planning process. So he's going to be here, well, here with us in his church in Spears. So yeah, but at the same time, he passed away. But we also had a number of other members that are here tonight, and the online too, but also community. But we had working groups that also met monthly. So these had different topics. So housing, economic development, transportation. So we also had the ambassador team. So these were actually paid positions. This is something new to the city as well, that we want people from community to get more involved, and also door knock flyers. So these are some of the events that throughout the year that ambassadors have assisted with, and they've been very crucial and key to door knocking, structured conversations, where sometimes, hey, you want to fill out a survey? Yeah, really? But these are the things, let's talk about. So they were able to like intercept those conversations, take it in, and then relay that definitely to the team, the neighborhood planning. We had, and also want to thank the For the Ville, also the Washington University, where they also provided different tour to other neighborhoods and other places where we could see and explore and imagine and bring it back here and enrich the planning process. So this is one to, we are going through the hill on this one to see new housing developments and we'll stop at a, pretty nice little, corner store. And we also had a walk and roll forward in the neighborhood, that also doubled as a sidewalk on it too. Good sidewalk, and help people get around. The engagement, we also had meetings and workshops, so these are just two of the images of the fall, winter workshop, or spring and fall workshop, for the launch party, I should say, where community members just engaged, in community, so we have those here. Online engagement, we have our Planet Scale website and also different newsletters throughout the month, updating people as well. And surveys and mailers, postcards went out to, I believe it's about 4,500 postcards in the area. So, and different flyers, QR codes, to make it a little more simple for people to participate. Switching to the topical coverage. So the topics in the plan, and you'll hear more from Hallie and Leslie soon. We have primary topics according to minimum standards that may be met, secondary and focus topics. So all those you will see, housing and economic development through our growth chapter, transportation, you'll see a lot of sustainability throughout, as well as items that contribute to safety, there's arts and culture. So there's a number of topics that this plan covers in line with the minimum requirements. And including we have existing conditions as well, which is a separate appendix. So you found the link in your packet there, but that's a whole nother little bit of a booklet with great information. And then we have a second booklet which had more development scenarios and placemaking. So in this particular case, this is and one of the aspects of the neighborhoods coming together, people in the neighborhoods coming together, identifying a spot to say, hey, this is where we want to kind of focus. And this one particularly was outside Sumner and Candy, just up the street. Another one was St. Louis Avenue in Euclid. And if you look at traffic patterns, that's because the only way you get on a Kings Highway into the neighborhood, one of those is St. Louis Avenue, which is at a signal, but then you have people going throughout. So there's a lot of traffic in a residential neighborhood, but the other streets don't have it there. So we installed some, we imagined what should be there, different color palettes, and we actually we installed them temporarily. But to imagine what could be to really strengthen what departments see, you know, what are issues out there, and also residents to see, hey, we could do this more. So plan to see in the future, we hope to do a lot. And more with development scenarios in placemaking. So the big blue area on the right side, that looks at what would it cost to make 50 units of new single family. And we did those other scenarios to talk about the total development cost. Here's the cost that maybe the market could bear, and here's the gap that we need to consider, that the city and other people need to consider to fill in order to make this a viable, more viable project. So and a number of partners, you see the table on the left side there, and then different focus areas where you could look. Also with the middle requirements for plan adoption, we have local and regional coordination. So we look at a number of our comprehensive plans, especially the more recent ones too, sustainability plan, the SLOOP, TMP, while those were also going on during this process. We were in quick communication with one another now. There's also other from the vacancy collaborative and a number of vacancy parcels that we have to projects or initiatives that people have. Of course, the Dream Boulevard Coastal Corridor. There was CDA, and CDA has their modular housing, the Enfield development. So they were coordinated SLDC as well in their housing. Different items like reports from East West Gateway, the high injury crash network was taken into consideration. Oh, yes.
Do you have a microphone or something that you can speak into?
Oh,
so that people can hear you better?
I apologize. In East West Gateway, there we go. My apologies. have a number of items, here that were coordinated with the plan, and you'll see that reflected in the plan too. And then we have the May 16th coordinating and FPO. So there's been a number of items in the planning process where there's been meetings hosted, there's been different conversations, different data shared. So just on the left, on the right side is this is much better. So you can see different data, that was available at the time, and then how that actually was what was called the growth network that we'll see soon, as well as sustainability and climate resiliency. Give an example of with the sustainability plan, it knows to have your community assets as a tool, something to be more resilient in order for in case of an emergency. Okay, you have the solar panels on the roof, you have battery power, you can actually power your stuff there to go to that place. So different strategies there like that. Next. And as we look for post-plan adoption, we have connections with plan areas 4 and 5 that border the area. So those planning processes will take into consideration everything that's in these plans, but also the different residents and people, because while the planning processes have these kind of boundaries, the residents and community assets do not. So they use each other's parks, schools, and all the assets. So really, it's bringing the residents and the city together to. Oh, there's a barrier, let's break it down, but also to elevate and bring cities together. We look to Dream Boulevard as their project advances for their implementation. Natural Bridge unification, so there's a lack of Natural Bridge, there's no business district as well, so there's a number of implementation items that we can look to involve and invest in there too. The Neighborhood Plan Implementation Award. This has been offered by the Community Development Administration. So they put out thus far 2.7 to 1.8 million for neighborhood plan implementation over the last 2 years. So we're forward to the 2026 round for that too. Looking to deploy different incentives with FLPC, elevate or create new partnerships or programs that exist in a neighborhood, and integrate with the zoning upgrade. So there's a number of items that in this book, you look at design guidelines that can inform the zoning and just capital budgeting and just a number of other items too, your affordable housing. And after this also, as I mentioned, we have the other planning areas going on. So we look at a cohesive neighborhood planning program, newer to the city, and we look for the planning and bringing in implementation partners. We have the neighborhood transformation managers as well who have been involved in the process too. So we look to coordinate the work with these different departments. And throughout the process, the planning commission has been involved for just regular, just quick updates at towards the end of the meeting to add longer informational section and all. Review session that you guys were invited to some participated in back in August, the open house as well in November, and we had the request for permission at last month's commission meeting. And this does all the city and state laws of being publicly posted in time and day location and publication in town. So this was posted in the city journal the daily record. Also, the plans are available online on city's website and planupfield.com. And also the physical copies are available in places like and when then for your resolutions that you received an email update from myself where there were updates in blue, which really referred to the last, I would say, 2 pages. We were talking about different items, changes, either items that might have been an error of omission. So one of them was a transportation mobility plan classification, and
did not get updated so we need to update that map. There are other languages, plan that we will update or more like the developments that are pressing in the community that we want to elevate a bit more. So there's some items there and language regarding some of those done items. But with that, we have our consultants here, they have a presentation, and then we're going to hear from members of the community.
Thank you, Jonathan. My name is Leslie Roth. I'm a principal of our Johnson Collaborative, and we were the selected planning firm to co-author this amazing plan that we're going to share with you today. This was a very ambitious plan. We received the RFP. We understood the challenge. We understood that the challenge that the city of St. Louis had. We understood the challenges that we were brought in to work with the community on elevating, lifting up voice, and creating realistic and implementable solutions. This was not an easy task, and we couldn't have done it without everyone in the front. This is a plan for not the three communities, it's one community. Learn that process. That by putting shared language together and co-authoring a document that community members can use for years to come, that this is a pathway to self-sustaining economic mobility, wealth generation, and a high quality of life. So we first wanted to start this process by expressing gratitude for the time, effort, and hugs, and love, and tears, and maybe a few harsh words that we went through to get to this point. So thank you all in the room for being a part of this process and partnering with us to create something that is meaningful to you. The names listed are everyone that has been a part of this process. We were thrilled with the outpouring of effort and support and time dedicated to this process. And we hope that this plan reflects those vision, aspirations, and goals for the future. When we kicked off this process, we wanted to start with a norm. This is a vision statement that we return to time and time again throughout this process to ask ourselves, are we continuing to be on the right path? Are we moving forward with the vision that we set out to accomplish? So I'd like to read it to you out loud. The vision statement reads, we envision a resilient, connected community where Black heritage lives on through private institutions, vibrant spaces, and creative purpose-built spaces, places that honor generations of local leaders who shape this neighborhood. So this document is structured in a way that can be, was meant to be graphically rich, it was meant to be user-friendly, and it was meant to be taken as opportunity or interest arose, so that it can be reflective and responsive to what the community needs were at the time, of course, what the funding and financing concerns were, and it was meant to be a document that can be used. So residents, community members, local leadership, and decision makers could be opportunistic about implementation. The chapters that you see here are iterative, they build on each other, and the real focus of this effort is the growth framework. When we started this process, we understood that there were a number of disparate elements in each of the three communities that needed to be understood further and really considered for what the strategy could be. We decided to take a little bit of a different path, and that was the path of integration. We didn't think that you could think about transportation without thinking about economic development. You couldn't think about housing without thinking about schools and safety and jobs and workforce development. So the overarching kind of crux of this document is how each of those elements come together in a comprehensive and holistic understanding of community and strategies that really begin to address each one of those intersectionalities. This has been about 16 months now that we've been working on this plan. It has been, and everyone has worked extremely diligently. As Jonathan mentioned, the amount of public engagement and outreach that has been a part of this process was not a part of one phase. It was not one conversation. It was a thread that ran through the entirety of the planning process. And that was really intentional. We know that as time moves on, new challenges and opportunities make them available, like the May 16 tornado that was not on our bingo for this project. And so being able to continue to build trust, to create a shared language, and to come together, even in the face of tragedy, is what made this happen. So there are 6 phases to the project. We are now phase 6. And we're really excited about how we got here and moving forward with implementation after the plan has been adopted. Chapter 1 is the executive summary. We wanted to summarize the bulk of work that has been completed for this process, and really give a high-level understanding of where we are and where we want to go in a succinct executive summary. This executive summary captures the goals and strategies of each section of the plan, and can be used on its own. So the initial chapter really sets the stage for the draft plan recommendation. It can look at how to use this plan, how it can be used, and this is not a one-size-fits-all, because we know that anyone who touches this plan will need to get a very quick understanding of what it means to them, how to use it, and how to accomplish the goals that are in the plan. We did highlight the existing conditions report that we thought were foundational to the storytelling about how we got to the draft plan recommendation. And finally, the tragedy that happened in the neighborhood. We thought that it was an incredibly difficult time. It still is. We have a lot more work to do. But it was an important part of how the community stayed together to move forward with the creation of the recommendation. We wanted to reiterate again that the contributions of community members throughout the process on this slide. We did distribute over $10,000 in stipends. We had over a dozen community ambassadors who worked alongside us at a living wage for this process to extend outreach into the community, as Jonathan mentioned. There were over 35 neighborhood planning committee and working group meetings. Each working group took on a specific topic area of the draft plan, and every deliverable, every submittal that the consultant team created was vetted through each one of these committees and vetted through community members. And we always ask the question: did we hear you? Did we get it right? Did we use the right word? Is this what you thought it was going to be? Did we meet your expectations? Because we are the technical experts, the community members are the ones that are experts on where we are, in place-based recommendations, and on understanding how to move forward. And lastly, over 3,000 people were contacted through this process, through on-the-ground door knocking, through mailers, through online engagement, through our monthly newsletter, in-depth interview, a real interview that we ran for online for about 6 weeks, workshop, working group, neighborhood ambassadors. So, and word of mouth. Each time we had an in-person session or conversation or discussion about any topic related to this plan, there was more interest, there was more involvement, there was more curiosity. And so we saw that as we were moving in the right direction. The key takeaways of this phase of the plan is that co-authorship was a priority. We wanted to make sure that while we were the scribes for this plan, that community really was the author with them. We did address tornado recovery efforts. This is not a tornado recovery plan. One plan can't do everything, but we did want to acknowledge parallel, collaborative, and cooperative recovery efforts that were happening in the community during the time that the plan process was happening. And really what this plan does is think about long-term resiliency and community self-sustainability. We know that this isn't going to happen tomorrow. And if you've already had a chance to look at the plan, you understand that there's a lot of bullet points, there's a lot of things that we need to do. So making sure that we created time-bound, implementable recommendations that were in bite-sized pieces. And we did this by starting from implementation at day one, by doing pilot projects, by showing what happens to traffic patterns when you just paint an intersection. And then also highlighting the sub-community priorities. Documents like this can be very, very overwhelming, and you all know that expression, the plan that sits on a shelf. So to avoid some of that planning fatigue, this is not the first time that we have been looked at. We wanted to make sure that from the last day of this planning process, that we knew how to take one step in front of the other. And as I mentioned, this is an integrated approach. We don't think these elements can exist on their own. They have to be integrated, have to understand their intersection. When we, one thing we learned through this process is, when we create a document like this, it doesn't make sense if you can't use it. And there are a lot of, so throughout the entirety of this presentation, we have sprinkled in, instead of jokes, we created scenarios to help everyone understand how this document can be used. These are questions that came up time and time again throughout the planning process that we wanted to daylight as a part of this presentation. So the first question is, what does the plan say about tornado recovery and rebuilding? We were asked this question many, many times and had a lot of discussion. What this plan does is it really links the recovery effort to the plan future, to the future of the neighborhood, to what resiliency can look like, to how we should rebuild and where we should rebuild. The plan actually gives very specific guidance on how to prioritize investment and parts of the neighborhood that can be stabilized and create a ripple effect throughout the rest of the community. So that was a really important piece of this puzzle. There are a few areas that in the plan that are referenced on the slide that go into greater detail about specific goals, specific strategies, and of course the implementation matrix, which we'll get into a little bit later in this presentation, actually gives guidance on partners who can help sort of carry the baton in terms of development, as well as tools for rebuilding efforts, funding pools, resources, and where we actually need to start. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Callie Mullen. I'm the urban designer of the Lamar Johnson Collaborative, and was fortunate enough to get to work on this plan with our team and our community here. So we practically go through this already. This chapter is really what I call the meat and potatoes of this draft plan. It is where land use, housing, and economic development come together to create the framework for long-term growth and stability in the communities. As I mentioned, the purpose is to combine those three, understanding that you can't move one forward without the other. It identifies where there are the right fit opportunities based on what we've heard from the community, the existing conditions, and the opportunities that we're hoping to have here in the community in terms of retail opportunities, housing opportunities, and looking for what I call gentle density. So it also finds tools for implementation, some of the resources, strategies, incentives for moving those forward, and then it includes a density analysis as well as recommendations for the three neighborhoods, and then a density strategy for the whole city. So it's really used for residents, developers, and that each be aligned in terms of what project fits where, what's the right fit, where should it happen, the appropriate location, and those tools and resources for making it. The housing vision that really was integral to this chapter. It's about creating a diverse, inclusive community with safe, high-quality homes, preserving history while fostering growth, wealth, and belonging for all residents. And then we also have goals that really led the formation of this chapter. The main priority of this chapter was the concept of growth from within. So really prioritizing the existing residents that have been here for generations and continue to make this such a strong place. We really wanted to prioritize them with housing choice, opportunity, and quality, as well as retail opportunity, expanding consumer, creating new diverse housing options, preparing legacy disinvestment and planning, and then reducing the vacancies through a block by block system and through the creation of gate development. This is our economic development vision, inclusive economy driven by community-shaped investment, strategic partnerships, educational pipeline, nurture future talent, contribute to the shared prosperity, improve key determinants of whole health and well-being. So again, the beauty of that vision is that it's not just about economic development, it's looking at everything. So our goal around specifically around economic development is really strengthening those serving retail opportunities, being able to get the tools and resources in place to attract new retail opportunities so that people can shop in their neighborhoods, they have multiple options, and they have access to their data. Supporting local entrepreneurship and ownership, through the collaboration with the Dream Boulevard, leveraging arts, culture, and strong legacy and history of economic drivers. And then another strategy associated with that is activating corridors to help them be commercial growth. And then local tourism associated with the local boulevard. Our key takeaways from this chapter really aligning those incentives, but also the incentives that don't exist yet or program. What could be created to support these kinds of yet? It also looked at clustering strategic development and investment in several ways, vertical by parcel or one strategy, but really having a holistic view. Looking at the corridors and anchors that can really serve, as well as stable housing, existing stable housing for growing or building out momentum for revitalization. And then, as I mentioned, plan to find eight technologies for guiding the development that have identified appropriate housing diversity and housing options based on our existing character, building a block with existing land use, proposed land use, we'll finish with and also keeping. So the area to this is actually looking half my block was vacant or under-maintained. I love living here, but the empty homes make me feel unsafe and forgotten. What can be done now, and what does the plan actually change? So as I mentioned, for state technology, identify where existing homes, residents, infrastructure already form strong bases through those 8 categorizations that the vacancy and density is a part of that. So where are the locations where you can build momentum from that already have that concentrated focus and activity going on? For housing that was for commercial activity, and then also outline the opportunity for rehabilitation, new construction, and infill housing, and then there's more detail in our design guidelines in terms of what those things look like that fit and feel appropriate to the neighborhood. We have a few more scenarios in this chapter because it really was the depth. We want more places to buy quality groceries and daily essentials. What tools do we have? So the neighborhood highlights, as I mentioned, those nodes and corridors for commercial opportunities. There are 2 of those development types for mixed-use opportunities for housing development, but really exploring the desire from the community for improved food access, healthy foods, fresh foods, whether that's co-op, farmer markets, pop-up. Creating sort of the recommendations that allow those things to happen, and then also outlining how to better use the tools available or need tools in order to create the opportunity for those new retail opportunities. How does the planning for development and how pushing people out? So as I mentioned, the main strategy for the growth framework is growth from within before attracting in. So the whole purpose of this is to make sure that people have a choice, an opportunity to stay in the neighborhood that they want to stay in, that they've been stewards of for generations. The plan really focuses on that. We highlight programs like home repair, tax relief, down payment assistance, a lot of the resources that already exist, we could be further supported and highlighted, so that people know those opportunities exist. And then it also shows how to pair these tools with new investment. Jonathan showed an example of the sort of housing facilities that we did as a part of our placemaking and development scenario deliverables, understanding what that gap is and what the needed subsidy is to fill that gap and where the resources on the higher side. Scenario this is home-based growth here. So the plan outlined, as I mentioned, is like 2 different types of commercial corridors for use opportunities where opportunities for more of a local business or home-based entrepreneur. This is then the community character, and then those technologies that support that type of use, are outlined in the design line. So a little work unit, mixed use building with retail on the ground floor, a home-based business, those sort of things. We also look at adaptive use for an incubator space for a smaller neighborhood-based business, that sort of thing. So really, also identify some incentives to support the feasibility of that. Transportation. So the purpose of this is really focused on creating safer streets, better connectivity, and improved access. Really highlight the streets like MLK, like Unity Center, like National Bridge, like St. Louis Ave. There's a few, Marcus, Liz, Taylor, Newstead, also the Love and Whittier as a key intersection, and lead from MLK Cultural Boulevard. And then it also recommends where to add bike lane, improved lighting, permanent bus infrastructure, whatever intersections and sidewalk, and basic approach for creating a safer walking network. So we identify those priority roads and opportunities in this chapter, and then the chapter continues to focus on guiding decisions. That's something that's available. What are the top priority items that we need to address for transportation mobility? It also helps coordinate when we move on to transportation mobility plan, and then identify the resident priorities for movement. Transportation mobility vision, we envision a connected, people first transportation system where streets are safe, beautiful, and accessible. Our public realm reflects community pride on our local history and support shared commitment to well. Again, a more holistic view on each within each chapter. The key takeaway, I mentioned those major corridors that are high priority. We're going to block out with a phased approach, so there would be 5 phases, and in the first phase, really creating a walking network, so that every resident is at least a 10-minute walk from that network, so that they can get to where they need to go. And then also coordinating transportation improvements with new development. So as new development comes on, making sure that the sidewalk or roadway improvements being done aligned with. So sidewalk lighting, crossing, need help. How do we plan to make walking safer? So as I mentioned, we have that roadway intersection priority map that you just saw that identifies the key walking routes for that first phase of improvement, as well as the components of the sidewalk repair include ADA, bridge ADA access to those sidewalk lighting, and really thinking about streets more holistically in terms of their design and public realm space and what they do to contribute to community character, identity, wayfinding, branding, more of that holistic feel to what a street and a roadway is. Yes. So the purpose of this chapter, it really covers our arts, culture, and preservation, but also our community aspects of education, community community services, job question, and sort of thing. So the purpose of that is the purpose of this chapter is to help identify future opportunities not only for preservation but for celebration, for strategy around wayfinding, signage, and sharing the strong legacy of the community. Really emphasizing the arts, culture, and education component. Arts and culture as an economic tool, as well as education, but also understanding there's a strong history and legacy in the neighborhood of the education providers, what's on there. Also connecting the cultural boulevard with other catalytic projects that we'll list further on in the second. And then we need to help advocate the resources. Not only protect the cultural, educational, and recreational assets, but also to support them so that they can grow and support the operating growth to attract. This is the arts, culture, and preservation vision statement. So we really like the cultural legacy of the area, identifying a cultural district with the Green Boulevard, state arts and cultural economy, and telling the story about the past, present, and future, vulnerable and creative talent. The goals, associated with arts and culture, again, preserving and celebrating that neighborhood, history and lifestyle, supporting and, the cultural spaces rooted in the community. There's a number of historic landmarks in the district, to be celebrated and to be, lifted up. And then protecting those historic buildings while enabling adaptive reuse, understanding that those buildings have, are ready for a new life, and a new purpose for serving the community. And then using culture, arts and culture as a driver, identity, pride. Our community access vision, we envision a reality where our public institutions facilitate upward mobility for all. And the goals associated with this are really strengthening the existing trusted neighborhood providers and services. Today, there's a strong equity in the neighborhood already, where it's just not, it's really about further supporting them with resources. And then improving access to services across all ages and needs. Is another component of the transportation mobility chapter, where the walking network is related to access to school, healthcare. And then access to the other access to resources. A lot of takeaways here. So the number one key takeaway is the history of flowers. It has, as I mentioned, strong, rich history. That shows up architecturally, it shows up in the stories, it shows up in the education, and celebrating and strengthening those as a key component. So anchoring that identity can be pride in those locations and locations get included like the corridor, creating those clear pathways to access to job training, workforce training, educational opportunities. As I mentioned, strengthening the walking routes to improve that access, and then coordinating the ongoing and or future development. There's a list here of all of those, and it's not an exhaustive list, so there is a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of stakeholders and supporters that want to see these things happen, and then coordinating with all of them has been a key part of this section. Scenario 7. Are you the artist being more likely to create rather than learn, and does the plan support that? So yes, it identifies institutions, parks, and historic buildings that are appropriate for that type of programming, or the building opportunities for adaptive reuse or repurposing in order to support those programs. Not only new programs, but programs that already exist today. And then strengthening and supporting those partnerships with Sumner, Tandy, and other service providers in the neighborhood. Design that. The purpose of this chapter is really to set some guidelines for the look and feel of it all. So we have design guidelines for housing opportunities that really look at creating, as I mentioned, gentle density and those other housing types that maybe aren't frequent in the neighborhood, but look to bring back that population density. We have design guidelines for commercial mixed use opportunities, design guidelines for public space, open space, and well, and road space. So this is to make sure that the community character is preserved and new development is supportive of continuing that community character. This is the vision for design guidelines. We envision a community aesthetic that expresses and cultivates our rich heritage and values for all our readers and gateways and inviting them to safe, quality, dynamic gathering spaces that will purpose and that promote a healthy and resilient future for all. The goals associated with our design plan, really setting those clear expectations so that when a developer does come into the community, they already have expectations of what community hopes to see here, what they want to look like, what they might want to place, really creating those clear expectations. Strengthening the neighborhood character, rather than detracting, supporting the building rehabilitation and adaptive reuse, understanding that there is a strategy beyond infill and construction, and then the design guidelines for the public realm sidewalk is really just being towards that pedestrian comfort, creating that experience of safety and comfort and sense of place while walking. And then using the design guidelines, to create predictability for residents, developers, and the key takeaway, delivering projects that fit the neighborhood scale, materiality, and like setbacks, while adding to the character and to the density. So encouraging those diverse housing types, as I mentioned, design guidelines include single family, ADU, duplex, fourplex, 5 to 9 small unit family, multi-family buildings, a mixed use type policy, and then it goes on. Open space, so commercial, but creating those, that stronger depth and love ground experience has created standards for, level 1 for mixed use building, and really emphasizing, the look and feel, the materiality, ADA access, lighting, and then for, street, stormwater pollution and neighborhood. Area weight. So we get more housing options like duplexes, multi-unit or senior-friendly units to allow for inputs. Yeah. The plan shows recommended sort of zoning adjustments through those development types outlined in the growth framework. And that also identifies the appropriate housing technology for those areas based on community input, the existing conditions, and community character, as well as identifying for the building of those housing types, create that greater housing diversity, housing joy, and housing options. All right, we're almost done.
So this may actually be one of the most important chapters of this whole document because, you know, let's all just take a breath from the amount of information that is presented in here. And, you know, you might be hyperventilating a little bit about how are we going to get this work done. Well, the implementation chapter shows you how to put one foot in front of the other, how to do the step one, how to create, how to manage expectations, how to understand that, you know, we're not going to do tomorrow. We're not going to do all of it in 2026. But with a little bit of pragmatism and a big dose of hope, I mean, we've done a lot of here in this throughout the course of the plan. And the implementation chapter really gives you the tool to hold each other accountable, responsible, and to take that first step into creating the kind of neighborhood that we illustrated today. This is really a roadmap. And the one thing about going on a road trip is that sometimes you do want to see that cool thing that wasn't originally planned. So the implementation matrix is also meant to be opportunity. Funding source, if there's an idea, if there's a vision, if there's a path that gets you to doing one of the things in this document that we didn't originally anticipate, we should do that. And this document gives you the flexibility to do that. We recommend this is also a living document. What you see today, we hope that it is not the same in a year. We want you to keep coming back to this and updating it and adjusting it based on the real life conditions on the ground, the real life conditions in your budget, and the real life conditions that are based on opportunity that we see in front of us. It should change as years go by, and we hope that every single year you return to this document to make sure that it continues to align with your vision and aspirations, that it continues to align with the way that you want our community to look, and that it continues to align with the direction that you want the community to go in the center. The implementation vision is a coordinated, community-led implementation model that turns vision into action, clear priorities, neighborhood accountability, strong partnerships, and early wins that build momentum. The goals are to get everything done. To put it very, very simply. But we did in this implementation matrix want to be very, very specific about having an understanding of the magnitude of cost of each one of the strategies in the document. We wanted to identify who the leaders and champions of the plan were going to be, who was taking the community's hand and saying, come with me, who are the partners that we have currently in community, currently in decision-making and leadership in all of our networks, and where are the gaps. Where are the areas where we need to fill in some of the missing teeth in our organization system strategy to make sure that we do have the tools and participatory, participation necessary to, continue to activate this plan. And lastly, we encourage you to track progress through clear metrics. You know, and there's a number of different ways that we can do that. The next phase of this project will be creating an implementation committee, but we give you some framework to and organizational guidelines to create that dashboard. The key takeaways from this chapter include time-bound goals, strategies, and actions that are identified throughout each one of the chapters of this document. They are combined in this chapter, and they are clearly differentiated by topic area. So that if you want to do strategy one from transportation, you understand who you need to call, how long it's going to take, you have an idea of where much it's going to cost, low, medium, high, and you also understand how to get there. There's an action. So we know that partnerships and collaboration are critical to the success of this plan. And we hope that, you know, this plan is one of those documents that can be a framework, can be replicable, and that can continue to guide the community to success. Scenario 9 question is, how do we use the plan after today? Well, there's lots of ways to use it. First, we have to adopt it, then we get to use it. But the project has been prioritized. So working with the neighborhood planning community, working with ambassadors, working with local organizations to continue to lift up what those priorities are, and advocate for how to get those projects implemented, is one thing that is completely realistic and a great way to use the plan. Tracking progress, holding people accountable, and really understanding that the goal of the plan is to change what we're doing today into what we want to be tomorrow. So continuing to move that forward. This plan gives you teeth, it gives you tools, and it gives you options and opportunities to be able to do that. And there's a variety of things where those are described in more detail in there. So what happens next? We kind of give you a little bit of spoiler around what some of those priority actions were, and we'll follow the slide. We know that through the course of this planning process, we tried a couple of pilot projects. They were placemaking, they were temporary, but they helped illustrate what happens when you see the translation between seeing words on paper and seeing a change in your physical environment. So that's the first bullet is beginning to identify early wins, low-hanging fruit, and the pilot that continue to build on the momentum that has been created through this planning process. As Hallie mentioned, through the growth strategy, the plan gives specific direction on a block-by-block approach to revitalization and resiliency in the community. So continuing to support that ideology, those strategies with the actions in the implementation plan can also continue to build momentum. And lastly, continuing to build on the repair that has been done with this process, the trust that has been built, the capacity of neighborhood residents and community organizations that have been a part of this process. This was a lot of time and energy. There was a lot of education, there was a lot of collaboration. And so the next steps and priorities for this are moving that momentum into action. We mentioned Green Boulevard. There will be a submission for Chapter 99, which is it's the process of approval that governs that coming on. And then the creation of the implementation task force. This is not the end of the process. I always say implementation is actually the beginning, because this is where the real hard work happens. We have a number of community residents who have a few words to say about their experience in the plan. So first off, I'm going to first off, I'd like to ask Julie to get us started.
Miss Julia.
Julia.
Hi, Miss Julia.
30 minutes.
Good evening.
I never said that.
For my community. Good evening, my name is Julia Allen. I've lived in this community for 76 years. Growing up here is something that I can truly say I am very proud. Who can say they grew up in a community where some of the most life-changing legal battles that changed the lives of Black people in the United States relate to segregation and job discrimination originated? Our community came. How many of you heard of Green versus McDonald? Douglas McDonald, some part. Kelly versus Frank, the Dred Scott decision. Gaines versus Cannon. Brown versus the Board of Education. Turner versus Clayton. And Liddell versus the Board of Education. Well, these are some of the lawsuits that came out of my community for the greater good of all of us in St. Louis and the nation. They had national impact. Imagine living down the street and talking to Julia Davis and her son, Johnny Butler, almost every day. Both were educators and community members who believe in the preservation of Black history and culture. Mrs. Davis was so outstanding. We have a library, and her history collection is preserved in the main library. Well, these are just some of the contributions that people who live or have lived in my community have made for the greater good of all. Growing up, our community was very diverse and thriving. We had people on all levels of the economic spectrum. They worked together for a community. Neighbors knew and looked out for one another. We had schools where excellence was taught and respected. Churches and community organizations that work for all of the community. Our community action agents. Today, we still have those same organizations and churches like Northside Community House, Hope William Presbyterian Church, which unfortunately was torn down because of the tornado. And Long Family and Children's Service, Antioch Baptist Church, Northside Youth and Senior Service, St. Philip Lutheran Church, Homer G. Phillips Hospital, St. Matthew's Catholic Church, St. Louis Cares, St. James AME Church, and the Tandy Residence. These serve our spiritual, social, healthcare, and recreational needs. In 1979, after the closing of Homer G. Phillips Hospital, our community started to change. Schools began to close, businesses began to leave, homes and property began to be abandoned. Our community alone has over 4,000 vacant or abandoned properties. This does not include damage done by the May 16th tornado. We're talking about almost 30 years of neglect, disinvestment, abandonment, decreased city service, and bad policy. Whether the Team 4 plan was officially adopted by the city or not, the city of St. Louis has continually abandoned the people of North St. Louis using the guidelines of Team 4. How many of you on this committee have ever really visited our community except for a meeting like this? How many of you outside of your civic, private, or social life have gotten to really know the people in our community, our values, our hopes, our dreams? Guess what? In spite of all the disinvestment, we have survived. We stand united, strong, and will continue to survive because we understand what community is all about. Now we come to you today. We have this community plan, which our community, the city planning office, CDC, and Black Rock Consulting have worked on over the last 16 months. It's a good plan. It's a very equitable plan that we as a community have come to a consensus on. I am encouraging you to adopt this plan. Do not make the mistakes of the last 47 years and leave this plan on its shelf or continue on the path of disinvestment. The plan needs to be approved, financed, and implemented. It needs to begin next year with the help of community, because we are still standing, watching, working as a community, and we will hold you accountable.
Thank you.
Frankie.
Hello? Hello? People of St. Louis, the city of my people. Good evening. I am Frankie Williams, resident of the Middle and an artist. I have been involved with neighborhood planning for 2 years and an ambassador for almost 2 years. Neighborhood planning is important for addressing historic disinvestment and ensuring equability, development and empowering residents to shape their future, focusing on goals like affordable housing, economic growth, safety, and better community access, making plans like Plan XCL, vital for turning community burdens into reality, fostering stronger, more vibrant neighborhoods. I wanted to be part of this because since my senior year of high school, I might be involved in things, such as this, and it's been passed. While we moving forward in this community is a lot of things, but more safety, more new businesses, new art, new everything. And I want to build a community where we live in a place with peace, love, and respect. Thank you.
There is one. I've been surprised.
Hey.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
I don't have a speech, but I do have some bullet points. I guess the best thing to do is just fill my story.
Right.
I like to start with, thank you for taking the time to listen and, thank you. Let's start with, I'm just gonna go off my bullet points, right? Preserve Black history, and like the cultural aspect of it, of the plan. These are just important to me because as a growing up in this neighborhood, I really wasn't impressed. I was always in trouble, DJO. Then when I got to Sumner, I've been to 10 different schools, by the way, before I graduated. So, when I got to Sumner, I just kind of just walking in and seeing a wall of fame and knowing the history. It's important that we know our history because I didn't know my history, who I was and where I come from. So preserving that history just got my head on straight. It got me wanting to be a delivery driver to believing that I can be the president if I wanted to.
And could.
It opened my eyes to a lot of things and opened me opportunities coming out of Sumner. I actually had a job opportunity to travel. City to city, I lived in a lot of cities. Worked on the Piper 15 campaign, so it offered me the opportunity to see how different communities operate, organizing community, organizing labor, organizing just the whole aspect of it is very interesting. And seeing the country, it kind of made me it got me to a point where it's like, dang, man, St. Louis, there's nothing like this. So I kind of just packed up and came back home. Found one of the old LRA houses. It was abandoned for I think like 16 years, 17 years. And I just been working toward perfection since then. So, and then like my block is like, it's a good block, but it's not a good block. It's like, it's all over the north side. This plan will really, bring business and development into the community, something we need. The walkability, being able to walk. When I lived in New Orleans, um, pathways and the landscape, the parks, all the neutral grounds, U-turn city. It's just people was all in the middle, like in the middle on the neutral ground, like Kings Highway, playing chess. I experienced real Southern hospitality, but here I can't even walk down the block without, this city, the LRA own a lot of houses, they all overgrown, sidewalks broke up, just in how cities plant the correct trees to make a difference, just being able to get to your house, it's annoying to be honest. Back to my phone. So yeah, I'm gonna end it right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion drafted on the wall, but we have a report.
Oh, no.
That preserves the history of the building. Now, we want to go that we have this time, not preserve. So we have.
Well, there's a handful of gardens, and it is that I walk. They have great food. They're not only. But there was a second one. So, we have to take care of food, forward, to walk, for the food, and bring it to the for the business. Because this is right in the bottom. Meaning I'm not.
Oh, YouTube said enough.
Good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
Sunny Hutton, resident of Kingsway East, and also community. I am actually reading on behalf. That was Dr. Rhonda Wallace. And I am reading on behalf of Douglas Common, the CEO, Executive Director of Northside Community School off of. He enters by saying my name and Douglas, that's not my name. You get what I'm going. So they are a pre-K public charter school that is been in Northside for more than 15 years. He said, while I do not personally live in North City, our students and families do. They live in the Ville, Greaterville, and Kingsway East and surrounding neighborhoods, and for them, this neighborhood plan directly affects their daily life. How safely children travel to and from school, whether families feel connected and supported, and whether the community is a place where people can stay and thrive. My involvement in this planning process has focused on communication, access, and participation. Northside Community School has published information about neighborhood planning meetings, working groups, and opportunities for feedback. We posted meetings and used our school as a trusted space to make sure families understand what we discuss, how their voices can be heard. Our school also serves as a neighborhood gathering place. We regularly host community events, including National Night Out. We bring together families, neighbors, and community partners in a positive and physical way. These events build relationships, increase trust, and reinforce the idea that this neighborhood matters and is worth investing. This neighborhood plan is especially important because it is already producing tangible results. The Build Day pop-up event in your summer school in St. Louis Avenue in Euclid showed how resident vision can turn into real immediate change. Safer crossing, calmer traffic, and activated public space. Families notice the difference right away, particularly parents navigating these streets with children. At Northside Community School, we see every day how neighborhood conditions affect students, their attendance, strength, safety, and overall well-being. This plan aligns with what our families consistently tell us they want. Safe streets, resources, respect for community history, and investment that strengthens rather than displaces growth. The critical next step is follow-up. North St. Louis has experienced plans in the past that did not fully materialize. The trust built through the process depends on implementation. So the early momentum we see must continue. Moving forward, I am committed to continuing to share information with families, keep our school open as a space for community connection, and to support ongoing engagement so this plan remains grounded in the voices of those who live here. I urge the planning commission to support the neighborhood plan, not just as approval, but in action. For the families and children who call work to be home. Thank you for your time and leadership.
Next we have Michael Burns.
Good evening. Good evening. Commissioners, all, city officials, city employees, concerned citizens, and the pastor. Good evening to you again. My name is Michael Burns. I am representing Northside Community College, and my remarks is going to be brief, not because of concise and speaking, because my So I was part of the planning, just in the house program group. On that particular group, we dealt with everything from sidewalks, lot development, rehabilitation of property, building, residential, as well as infill construction. This plan also included not just what the work of Northside Community Housing, but it included the work of KSDL, Northside Youth and Senior Services, for their lead development, developing the whole 4,200 block of Rapid and Center School. So all of those projects are part of this. Plan is good, it's exciting. Members of the community, both the residents, the business community, city officials, the developers have all worked to make sure that this program works out. Because we see this as a positive move and North St. Louis, and we want to really be behind it because of that reason. North St. is specifically in favor of this plan. But it's also a little personal to me as well, because half of my life I live in North St. First and during those 30 years, 10 of those years, I lived on 4,000 blocks of things that. On that block, I met a Black Catholic family that lived across the street called Myers family. And it just so happened that one of those Myers kids is Jonathan Roper's mother. Jonathan Roper's mother, his aunt, his uncle, his grandfather, and his grandmother. You know, so put together this plan. It's extremely heartwarming to be, and I'm so grateful to be here, to be alive, watch this plan go forward, and doing this and under this young man's leadership. Thank you so much for
Thank you. I have another speech as well. Good evening. We hear a lot of beautiful words in rooms like this. We hear about potential, strategy, tomorrow, but I'm not here to talk about tomorrow in the abstract. My name is Tyler Johnson, and I'm here because I believe in implementation. I believe that the difference between a dream and illusion, discipline to write it down, map it out, and actually get it done. My roots in the soil run deep. My mother is a graduate of Summer High School. I lived in the field when I was very young. So when I look at Area 1, I don't just see a map. I see history, I see my history. That history is exactly why I aligned myself with Kingsville, where I now serve as a community liaison with the neighborhood. I think those Kingsville find a lot. I went there because I saw my own values reflected in their work. I saw a group that wasn't just talking about change, but still consistent, staying there. I joined them because I wanted to be around people who treat execution as a requirement. That is exactly the same energy I'm bringing to this economic development plan. And what excites me most right now is seeing the energy shared. And I'm proud to see our area working together. Kingsway, the Ville, the Greater Ville, moving as one unit. Let's be honest, economic development can sound cold, it can sound like charts and profit margins. But if we do this thing right, the plan is actually an act of love. We have to focus on wrapping our arms around the people who are here right now. We aren't trying to build a new neighborhood only for new people. We are building infrastructure for us. Implementation means creating a physical environment to tell our residents, you are safe, you belong. That is what these amenities are really about. I brought up safety kiosks, clock cameras. This isn't just technology, it's a peace of mind. It ensures that a mother and or a baby can walk to the store and feel secure in their own zip code. We want coffee and tea houses. We need a place to sit down, look eye to eye with each other. We need a space to simply breathe. Health and wellness center, because we cannot build a strong economy on the back of sick people. We need to heal within walking distance. This is a vision, but a vision without a system is just a wish. We all know the danger here. We know that excitement is easy, but endurance is hard. We know that 3 months from now, when the paperwork piles up and the bureaucracy gets heavy, projects tend to fade. I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen. My commitment is to follow through. I understand organization. I understand the creative process. And I understand that we have to protect this plan from getting watered down or forgotten. This neighborhood deserves more than a good start. Deserves a strong finish. Deserves a team that implements what is promised. Let's wrap our arm around this community. Let's respect the work. Let's get it done. I want to thank each and every person here for their time and energy. It's not gonna go on unnoticed. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of our leaders for their hard work and for the plan, and that includes public testimony.
Thank you, Leslie, Emily, thank you, everyone for being part of the planning process. As you heard, these, this is part of the presentation. So these members have been part as a working group, neighborhood ambassadors, neighborhood planning committee members, and they played really crucial roles in this planning process. So at this point where you have a presentation, staff feels as though we've met minimum requirements for plan adoption. You may answer questions or comments that you may have. Forward to the
So our questions from the commission will come later. Right now, we'll be moving into officially the public hearing, although I feel like we've had part of the public hearing as part of the presentation. Sorry, I'll use it. But so we will be opening the official public hearing. If you haven't spoken yet, you have an opportunity. I have one person who is registered, but if anybody else would like to speak? The Reverend, and you was here. Could we, thank you. We'll go ahead and pass this out. Please write down your name. You'll have about 3 minutes to speak, and we will officially open the public hearing now. Oh, and if you're online and would like to speak, go ahead and put your name in the chat. You'll, as I said, you have 2 minutes to speak. When you start speaking, we would ask that you go ahead and say your name and your connection to the neighborhood.
Move to open the public hearing.
Okay. All right. The motion was made by Commissioner Patton, seconded by Commissioner Fowler. Call the roll.
Alderwoman Sawyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Banton.
Aye.
Commissioner Fowler.
Aye.
Commissioner Hubman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatton.
Wilson.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Chair Boaz.
Aye. All right, the public hearing is officially open. The first to speak that we have listed here is Althea Hayward. Thank you to come, I'll give you the mic.
Hello, I know we have 3 minutes, but I can do this. First of all, I'm part of the debate. And what has surprised me, what I heard, what are maybe sound like a good plan, but people that are minded that around me, we're talking about maybe 4 or 5 months. We knew nothing about it. We felt nothing. And then, so there is another neighborhood meeting that happens at the same time. But I would say, going forward, you're talking about building community. You're gonna have to make sure that you communicate with everyone in those neighborhoods. You have block units that you could have got notices out to people that way. The block happens to talk. But like I said, you have a section of people that feel left out. I'm 60. My parents, I have Black family move on my father. We live next door to the mission. So therefore, I want to end militant, but I get to a certain degree, I am. So my people, they tell us to stand up for our, so I'm watching what you guys are doing. I'm no longer sitting. I'm much better now. Some people I do, but I'm telling you, you need to make sure that you solve everything. Not just the committee, just those that are committed, but then don't say that. We said something about it, because I have 45,000 on my block that I'm locked at. And none of us knew anything about it. So, just remember that.
I think we'll keep using this for the benefit of everybody here in the room. The next person I have on the list is Jean Frumkin. Thanks for doing that.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
I'm Jean Thompson, and I am the co-creator of the Housing Corporation. We are perfectly so we have a building support of the family. When she building with we were able to get the community grant fund for. So I wanted to speak out. It took us years to get this building and all that building that has been vacant for many years. Get it up. So I worked on low moderate income housing and also had office space and rental space. But I want to say that one of the points made here was the people involved. That project, first project, or this project, first project for years. And we don't want to, we wanted that to be like a template or more development, more in North Central City, especially in a good part of Kingsville, Roof also. So I am very excited about this. I'm happy that the organizations are all working together to get it done. And I hope that the city will continue to support the growth and momentum that has been put into this program.
I'm going to send it back to that. Reverend Ashland is next.
Hello, and welcome to St. Philip's. I'm Richard Ashley, I'm the pastor of St. Philip's. And I think this is a well-written visionary plan, kind of vague. That bothers me. I grew up on Cook Avenue, 4108. I'm definitely a part of the greater Ville and Ville community, Summerite, Riddick Elementary. I'm sure you contacted local churches in doing this, but St. Philip's wasn't contacted. I found out about this when we were approached about the meeting, and I'm pleased to host it and hope that there's still flexibility so that those of us who were not part of this can have some input. Because we've been here 98 years, that ought to say, give us a call. And I'm worried about funding. Let me just say this. I'm old enough to remember when we were promised something that Homer Village was not closed. Broken promise. I don't want this plan to end up on the shelf and broken. So I'm supportive, but I want to see some action and funding in this community. And you know, you can call some of us will be there.
Okay, do we have anyone online that's wanting to speak? I'm not even in charge of the computer. Come on up. And if you would, you were signing me, we have it on the record. Your name?
You're one on.
You don't want to.
I would just first like to say, this is my first time attending one of these meetings and, here with someone else. I'm really glad that we can because, we're trying to do, God work and community work in Greenville and bring the things, into business, in the back end. So we did apply for some projects. But I first off would like to just start by saying, first, my name is Lynn. My parents were living in these areas as I was a child, born on 5055 that's a great deal, but it's falling apart. However, this neighborhood is tied to my grandmother, and she spent 30 years on college over near the fairground area, and that's why I spent one of my grandparents. So my part is in North Louis. They always have. Right now, I reside in St. Louis County, but I do have a small business that is here in North St. Louis. That business is tourist services, and it is called Heritage Shop Tours. What we've done is 52 down there in the St. Louis area. We're trying to bring on down there to St. Louis City. They've been existing in now. My heart is in North St. Louis simply because there's a lot of work that needs to be done here. This plan is excellent, but just as the pastor stated, we do need to be more specific on something, even though we have to get the whole package. I pack it download it on my phone and carry it on. I didn't hear anyone mention insurance services. I didn't hear anyone mention anything, maybe one person about mental health. I heard someone mention something about health services. I know that Athena has recently came to the area and they do provide plethora of health services. However, it is planned because this covers a wide area and these are areas that are critical and they need help. So the mental health services, the re-entry services, the career services, these things have to exist. And in the plan, there needs to be a plan about how you're going to create things like that. I know that Urban League, and I know that they have Empowerment Center and the new, and that Boys and Girls Club is doing something new very important. So I'm pretty much doing my homework. Because I was trying to see where my business is going to fit in one. Because again, it all starts on Main Street, which connects the dots. So you got Grand, you got one thing, you have that's where you have income. So you know, these have always been the whole core of the roots of getting things to be implemented that are going to be better. There are definitely some things that have started and has been successful, and I really applaud that. Things done. But I would say we've on 25%. It's 75 still left because our city is still, very violent, we have a lot of violence. We have drug problem. So like in this plan, even though I know that these things are technically regarding hourly and supporting services and things like that, we do need to put the key items in the fund that are going to grab the attention because we have major issues. So to have sustainability, we're gonna need some other things like from transitionally. Some people don't like to deal with shelters, but the reality is we have a homeless problem here as well. So the shelter part of this. Okay, community centers are maybe, we only have a couple that come to mind when you're dealing with this area. And so we need to have several dealing with the area. So building a community center, building a mall, and a lot of people think that's far-fetched. No malls. Well, I beg to differ, because when the planning is done, there is a conglomerate of stores that will come area, but we do have to focus on things. So, you know, it is some other things that need to get tied in to the plan and be more specific, and some other people that do need to be meet because their communication and what they're going to convey and attribute to this plan, script, like Anglo's was part, needs to be a part of the plan. I don't know any other ones, but I know that that's definitely different because we're dealing with that. But anyway, I just wanted to say I'm very glad that I got a chance to attend, and I look forward to that. Continue to attend these things so that I can be part of the plan, part of the solution that I've made in the past with my group. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Chandler, I think is the last person. Dr. Chandler.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a pastor, Richard Chandler. I kind of grew up in this neighborhood, but my family lived on St. Ferdinand. I grew up in the Trinity Water Lancers, Candy Park, so well, very important. And so, May 16 changed our church's life. When our church was destroyed by the tornado. And I thank Pastor Ashley for allowing us to worship him there. We had an opportunity to leave and go somewhere else, but I love this community. I decided that I wanted to stay and worship here and be able to make a change in the community. My thing is, let's not having a lot of meetings with no action. Let's do that. I'm kind of in the 60s. I was born and I travel all over the country. So there's always a lot of meetings. There was a job I was at. We had meetings on what we were going to have the next meeting, but there was no action. So I'm asking each and every one of you, I don't know, you all personally, but you will hear a lot from me. I hear a lot from community. Along with Fred Phillips, we just purchased over 80 bags, over 50 bags, and over 75 for portable portable charges for that one now. But we're really tackling this thing in the community. All I'm saying is, please, let's not have meetings, let's not act. And you all have been elected, so we know what's going on in Washington, things like that. But I feel this. You know, like each and every one of you all. And so I impact action. We do it. So he needed a firecracker like me here. So I'm here, I'm ready to get some stuff done for this community. Amen. Amen.
Passing that, I'm thinking that'll help people to hear. Thanks so much. All right, so that's the last of the public meeting. We need a motion to close the public meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all right.
Previous roll. I'm sorry, I interrupted your.
Any objections, previous roll? And that motion was by Alderwoman Sanye and the second was by Commissioner Hudson. Any objections, previous roll? No, all right, hearing none. The public hearing is closed. All right, we'll now move on to commissioner questions and discussion. I'm gonna go ahead and pass this all the way down to Commissioner Williams, and we're just gonna go across this way. And we don't have anyone online. But, okay.
It's good. I just wanted to say thank you. As a person who has committed themselves deeply to this community, I stood by with a high expectation. And I truly feel that you all exceeded my expectations in the way that you delivered this plan. So very excited to see it completed, and
I would just echo the gratitude. I'm really happy to see you all here. I know you could be doing anything right now at 7:30 on a Wednesday night. And really, as an alderwoman, I really want to emphasize to you all that it's really important that you all talk to your alderperson, your locally elected officials. Someone called this commission elected officials. This commission is not elected officials. I am an elected official as an alderwoman, and then there's a representative from the president's office, and there's one other alder here, but there are only 3 folks, and then everyone else is kind of staff or appointed in different ways. And so I want to provide that clarity, but I just want to make sure as far as implementation, when there's a developer that wants to do something, when there's a business owner that wants to do something, when there's someone who needs a zoning variance, your alderperson is going to be the key person that kind of facilitates those conversations and who is elected to represent your interests and have those conversations on your behalf. I'm lucky enough and honored enough to have some neighborhoods where we have neighborhood plans, and a lot of times I'm able to reference those plans when I'm telling someone, no, I don't want your payday shop, or I don't want your auto loan shop, or I don't want your whatever insert entity that doesn't align with the community plan. So I just, in addition to just thanking you all for your diligence and participating, I just wanted to echo that I think it's really important that you make sure that your local official is tied into this process as much as possible, and that you guys are just being vocal and in communication with that individual about what it looks like to carry this forward, because that will be the person that coordinates with city departments and interested parties who want to come into your community and do this work. So I really wanted to highlight that and put that on record, and then just really wanted to thank also the consultants and the city staff and the departments for all of your over 1,000 doors knocked, over 4,000 pieces of mail sent. I know that everyone did not get reached, but I do see a good intention to do it. And I would just say, I think as we move forward as a commission, we should definitely talk about some of the things that we missed here, whether it's how can we improve our communication with, institutions within communities such as churches? How can we incorporate the block captains and block units? I think these are just things for us to take note of as we continue these plans and make sure that more of our neighborhoods have them to cover these communication gaps. And I'm happy to stand in the fold and help with that in any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of great testimony here tonight, and I want to echo my thanks for everyone that has come out tonight. Thank you to the planning team. Thank you to the city staff. An effort of this magnitude takes a lot of time, and it's certainly a big group lift. So this is a great way to end the year, I think, in terms of bringing community together. And it's an incredibly important area and neighborhood for the city of St. Louis that is rich in history. My family has history here. My grandfather came to St. Louis from Washington, D.C., my grandmother from the Philippines. They met while working as physicians at Homer D. Phillips. So quite literally, I don't think I would be on this planet without some of the legacy of the institution in this neighborhood. So, it's poetic that, we're here tonight. I think that's great. As an architect, I love seeing a plan with implementation. I love seeing design standards. That's incredibly important. I think that'll really help the neighborhood as development comes, and the neighborhood rebuilds. There's a lot of work to do. I get the urgency of implementation, and I think that's an incredibly important part of plans that are adopted from the city these days, and it's something that this commission is certainly keenly interested in. We've recently adopted the strategic land use plan in the city, the transportation mobility plan, the sustainability plan, and all of that is going to be key as we work with these neighborhood plans and implement all of that together to really achieve the excellence that these neighborhoods deserve. One sort of general question, and this is for city staff. So in regards to implementation, a lot of that has to do with coordination among city departments on how we, and quasi-city departments like FLDC, CDA, on implementing these plans. And to do that often requires funding. So, being my neighborhood is the West End in the city, we've been lucky to get some CDA grants as well to jumpstart some of the projects that were identified in our neighborhood plan that was adopted a few years ago, which has been excellent to see. But some of these things will not happen without funding identified, and part of that is as working with your elected officials. Part of that is, I think, finding ways to be creative, grant funding. But I'm curious, as we go through this planning process for many of these neighborhoods, that it's going to be a challenge to get private funding, developer interest to do some of this work. And as a city, we've shown an appetite for transit funding, for repairing LRA buildings. I think there is an appetite in the city from its residents to do some of this work and self-fund some of this work through our own tax dollars. And is there, where capital funding, CDA funding is always something that can fluctuate, but is there an opportunity where a fund could be created to specifically implement planning initiative? Something I think we're considering. And I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts on, as these plans complete over the next few years, on how the planning agency is going to move from this planning phase to the implementation.
Thank you very much about the question about implementation and funding. So we break down the different aspects. So there's not one funding, one aspect. If you're in the housing realm, or if you're in the transportation realm, federal grants, state grants, like say you could spend it on this. We have to look at the ones that we have today, and we can maybe just change a little bit, or maybe collaborate more, or just say, hey, you have the Providence funding, which is a new source of funding for LRA property that did not exist. It's not up, but it's a start. But who's that second half who's going to come in and say, okay, I see your 50,000 there, and who's a champion of the city who's going to talk about that? So, and looking at this particular plan, the development standards for one, did look at, let's say, a house, not just you need weatherization repair money, you might need money to hold a property for a year, when you get your light, when you get your Missouri MHCC funding in order. So there's a number of stages of development that in this plan actually did break down to look at and say, this particular person who's in the city, who might not be the city. A lot of times we can't hold the city because we are limited, but the city does on a lot of those items because we're saying, just don't get profit S. PDA funds for this, profit out for that. That's how these be coming for this and bring it all together. So we need to be better, which traditionally, well, we haven't been as, good for managing a lot of papers. Other items, I know SLDC did hire a new grant writer, which is new for the city, and a lot of neighborhoods definitely needed, they were trying to do it on their own, as volunteers even. So we want to identify the different opportunities for one, but also to say, and then you can guide them in what you hear. So yes, we hired a grant writer, great, but what are they gonna do? And what are they gonna focus? So there's communicating those items and looking at, there's the capital improvements budget that's a application, the 5-year consolidated housing plan as well. So we have also been meeting with, you know, older people are always busy, they're always, the work got a lot bigger in the last couple of years, so they're meeting with more people understanding. So we hope the community plans can be used as to say, hey, these are the top 5. Review that the law about zoning policy, they're already working with pro housing, so that that initiative the city did receive funds. We are looking at shorter development processes, which should help a lot of that get started. Also, in this planning process, we have what's called a building confidence and so most of our neighborhoods are built. It's mostly housing, and then you have community housing parks, but we don't have any. So starting there, we all brought in bankers, insurance agents, and different nonprofits that actually build in the community. So there's one of participants there, but we also have others say, okay, what does it take to be more attractive, or what can they bring to the table? And a lot of it was, I'll just say, myself, John, Don, Miriam, we're planners. So we do need the other people, the other programs, but they see our grant because PDA, should we have it? Should CDA have it? You know, we need to agree and get coordinated for to say, we don't only need a grant writer. We do need one, but we need to focus. So let's focus, let's make the programs work for us. Let's understand that, you know, we have a 1950 zoning code, but it took a lot of thinking, a lot of people to support, hey, that's older than, you know, a lot of people could do, and like, so it's just like, what doesn't work with us, and understanding that more, let's change policies, let's align funding sources, and also the confidence. I think once you say, hey, look at that, they have this plan to look at, I want to be a part of it. That's exciting. Tina Turner, mural for Harlem Catherine went down that example of Whittier and MLK. Please look at it. There's Tina Turner mural. Best SPL is moving in, or they moved in. The Green Boulevard across the street, and there's also that one of the newest strip malls in the area there, and they have a restaurant too. They had restaurants. They had stuff right there tonight after the adoption at home. If they're still open, of course, tornado happened, but we still look at to say that's a very important place, and we all have our roles, but we also need to know what.
Also, that specifically the plan implementation funding.
Yes, and so when pays through this program, the Economic Development Sales Tax 2017, part of that was the planning, but also the implementation. So there is seed money available. The last 2 years of that funding, there has been matches that were made. So, and PDA being one of the reviewers of the grant reports, a lot of them came from a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of different matches to say, hey, actually, yeah, we went through 200, 300,000 for this. However, the owner person's budget, they put in capital reward money. They, there's some private entities as well. So that 200,000 actually turned into $1 million seed. So we just put the 10%, 20%, you got 300%. So, doing stuff like that and say, hey, we have these plans that we're advancing, and a lot of community to do it too. We programs like media show more success quickly, so that other people can say, like right now, I do agree. I hear this in the planning process. We need to see some action. Partially, it's the development scenarios where there we did a little bit of action, but we. Madam Chairman.
Yes.
If I could make a couple,
Sorry?
if I could make a couple comments.
Good evening, everyone. Many members of my staff are here. I'm the city planning director. And certainly I remember coming to the bill a long time ago. Boy, glad we've been able to make transformations. Very proud of the process. And the trick that I've heard to make it is let's remember to stay together so we can help find pieces to fund and help implementation. One of the things what the Alderman was saying about is very important about the political process for budget applications. But one of the things in the development process that you now have very strong leg up with the adoption of this plan. One of the typical things the city does to help with physical improvements, new development, is redevelopment. And they're generally done through the LCRA, part of SOBC. But the trick is, no, the requirement is every one of those plans generated some need to make a physical improvement, new building, help with the business, those types of things, is originated, but it has to come to Jonathan and his team and the planning commission to be found that that action is in compliance with the neighborhood. That's a key thing. It's not, doesn't get to be willy-nilly. It has to be done in compliance. And that's part of this. And it's now a key component that you have, which certainly will have an adopted neighborhood plan that imposes those requirements.
I'll try and be quick. We've been involved in plans at this scale for 30 years, and a lot of them different roles. From what I can tell, and look at this one closely, I think it's a good plan, a good roadmap. Plans are great at articulating goals and how to achieve them. In and of themselves, they don't do anything. But they're a great framework for kind of building advocacy and collaboration and aligning resources to achieve things. So one of my favorite quotes is, "You don't have to move to live in a better neighborhood." Nothing I can tell you guys about tenacity or patience that you don't already know. Parts of this will probably be fairly straightforward. Parts of them are going to be frustrating and take time. I definitely echo what Alderwoman Sonia said about, Hester, your elected official, talk to your alderperson, constantly bring them in. All that stuff. I do have a question. Heard reference to an implementation committee. Like to have some understanding of that, what that looks like. I would hope that it's yes, we need to include your alders all the way through implementation, but I think the implementation committee needs to be more durable than needs to outlast elected election cycles. Alders come and go. Institutions tend to be here for 98 years or more. So I'd like to know that implementation committee has some durable organization and muscle behind it. And to answer a couple of previous concerns about people that weren't involved in the process, yeah, any plan has flexibility. Goals probably have enough common ground and for everyone to align behind, at least broadly. Implementation committees, particularly if they do include those who weren't maybe included in the process, can certainly count and improve the result. And so people who wanted maybe to have been involved and weren't are involved that way. So staff or consultant could touch on the structure of the implementation committee, what that looks like.
Thank you. The implementation committee, so The city today does not have an official, let's call it implementation committee. Actually, I'd say the one that they do outside of the board bill to recognize organization. Separate from that, the chapter 99 flag radar happened. Which actually stated that the city and maybe considered that it was over $1,000 had to go to this committee and spelled out that otherwise in the city there's really nothing more. And the We Collab committee, implementation committee, we adopted the plan here, planning commission 3 years ago. Now has the meeting actually weekly for their committee, and there's some people to speak for that. But what we seek to have is that people who have been involved in the process, or people who would like to get more involved with the process, to get development. So this would be the neighborhood planning committee that formally is today. There's a number of neighborhood organizations that are represented, block minutes as well, who want to have more say there. So currently, how we've been, just a little bit of a test. PDA, that's what we get in this process, tell them, NLRA has proposed problems that otherwise wouldn't have gotten as much public or even neighborhood scrutiny. So they met a few times in this process, about 3, then continued to actually attend the different planning piece throughout, and also giving some updates about CDA. So we thought that was helpful, but right now there's a need from a number of people in the city to communicate with neighborhood consistently, regularly. But there's also the need on the neighborhood staff to have some committee. So right now, we are still looking into what exactly, if the plan does spell out more about how it should be, but how that there's the official, how the city recognizes them, or there's just how it comes together. So we have more about how they come together, and different needs about who definitely should be there. There's definitely people that recognize that definitely should be involved, but there's also what's a little bit work in progress, not in this neighborhood, but plan area 2, plan area 3 is the city's record how they recognize.
Good evening, now, running the community engagement consultant on the project and help team place the president. With somebody can piggyback on what Tyrone did about Ethan King bill, which is King bill. Look at you on because it was part of a group that wanted to take action. They wanted about it and they showed it just wasn't in their words. So 3 months ago, a committee was actually formed to bond King bill, specifically for plan. They're going to be students, they're graduate students that are already doing work. And he was very well in the group as well. So they're going to be sticking to that plan, looking at it. They'll be in city official for each of those priority projects. Everything from making sure the sidewalk, this one of the things are big, to everything from, okay, can we talk to the certain developer and, pitch our effort. So they got started 3 months ago, and then we will officially launch in January. Yeah. Yeah, we're excited about the committee. Yeah, but we already doing the work.
We need to find ways to empower more power, but maybe you're able to the planning meetings, a lot of neighborhood associations, the organizations, throughout the city do have our behavior all in that they're a department that there's a target there. But a lot of that is of form is structure. So this is where we are putting our feet into that. I would say there's a board bill on the table that that recognizes community organizations, there's that, but there's other meetings that we spoke at. I don't think that's having a meeting. One of the commission adopts that, so the city had to act and recommendations approved. But this plan, has it, and we put that plan also talks about education. So there's more to talk about as to what kind of structure the St. Louis, but also apartments, the way they go and be, we can always go with it. So we need to build that.
Yeah, community needs its own squeaky wheel, you know, long lasting. I'll agree. First, thanks that, so thanks, most importantly, the community, not here, but everybody that's been involved with this. It's kind of a topic I've seen kind of plans with counties and cities that have some engagement in that, so I was really happy to see. That's to make it a good job, so stay involved. I did hear some other testimony and from them, that's fortunate. But there are still ways to stay involved. I hope that everybody that was missed on the first try or second try, the 27th try, can still get involved. There's still opportunity there. This is your community, this is our community, this is our city. So please don't feel slighted. Get involved, please. Like there's more stuff that's coming down. So continue to do stuff. That's one thing that I have. A little bit about me. I grew up on Lexington Taylor, and then grew in Cora. My mom was born in Homer Key, so I have that connection here. Just like Jake, without this neighborhood, I wouldn't be here. There's no way. So I just want to, you know, the people on this commission, the people that are involved, we all have something that kind of just to the neighborhood. Kind of put my civil hat on a little bit. Something that kind of Don hit on a little bit, you know, kind of things around a little bit is this plan and how it affects the future. From my standpoint as civil, I work with developers. This plan gives you, you know, to say, hey, we don't want that here. We want this here. We want our streets to look like this. We want connected sidewalk. All those things are things that I look at when the developer comes up and says, hey, I want to do this. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to be in that neighborhood just told us they don't want that. They want you to do X, Y, Z. They want you to put artwork up. They want you to have great wayfinding, whatever. So from my standpoint, I love this plan because it gives me something to go back to the developer and say, no, that's not what they want. But, you know, I personally can't stand up, but you guys enable us to do that. This is everywhere, including this commission. Because when a plan comes through and we have, I don't know, conditional use permit or whatever it is, we use that plan as a piece of our kind of guidelines, our guardrails to help protect you. So instead of just say, that's my piece. I think everybody's in support of this. Oh, one last thing. If you have a question, clarification. This is a living document. We make updates to this as we go. So something else to think about, get involved. If there's something that's really like, oh, I didn't miss the vote on that. But we can, you know, amend this so we can make revisions. So all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot today in this presentation. And I have a connection, a pretty deep connection here to the bill. Both my parents are Sunrise. I grew up in the bill. I've lived in this neighborhood for 62 years in Kingsway. And one of the things though I see is we're lucky in a way that we're the first place in this effort that the city did. The other bad side of that, not bad, but the opportunity is the city's gonna get better. And some of the things that we heard in complaints, we're gonna get better and we're gonna do better. Some of the connections that I think Jonathan mentioned, and one of them is on financing that Jake was talking about. The financing similarities in all the planning groups in North City, financial hurdles are the same. The thing we lack is developers wanting to come in that have assets and bank that are bankable. They're not looking to come in unless we sweeten the pot and have a defined path. And I think staff, we need to kind of look at our economic development strategy that we kind of define that path a little more clearly. Because it's the same in Fountain Park, Fairground, O'Fallon. Well, some of the specifics are different, but the economic challenges are very similar. So I just think we could probably learn more on that and how to stack those resources. Jonathan mentioned NS. There's also bankable loans, the city could do low interest loans. How do we fill those gaps? And let's articulate that specifically and give developers some kind of a path. So that's what we're trying to track. We're not going to do this, as Jonathan pointed out, with the city money. CDA doesn't have the money. We just can't do that. We've got to attract bank loans with that $38 million in that, no, $8 million that we needed on that example. We're not going to get that money from CDA. They don't have it, and that's needed a whole city grant for like 3 years. So we really need to find a way that we can lay that out and attract developers across the city. But overall, I think the plan is great. I do think it stands that we need to update, modify, continue to monitor. And the final thing is some of the behaviors that we have in the city right now, which all the commissioners do, I say this all the time, that it's about how we enforce what we have. We don't have a lot, but we need to be more judicious in what we have. So thank you guys. I think it's a great job.
And Mr. Commissioner, of course, much of what you were talking about, gelling how to get things done in those missions is part of the SODC mission.
Right, it is. But we need to kind of work together.
That's why we're all on the same page. We can walk between each other's office without the door to communicate with you.
Thank you all for your work. I don't have anything more to add. I'm really interested in the implementation ballots. Starting one and raise one. Thanks for the engagement. Also to say hi to Representative Kimberly and Colorado, who are going to be advocate for the community as well. So thank you all for your work. Look forward to support the plan tonight.
Said good luck.
I just wanted to add, being that State Representative Kimberly Ann Collins is present, that I think when we're talking about funding, especially post-tornado, we should not limit ourselves to just city dollars. I think there are absolutely some opportunities at the state level, and Representative Kimberly Ann Collins does sit on the budget committee at the state level. So I just want to make sure that we just remember it's not just on the city, and I do think that opportunity, especially post-tornado, we should explore the avenue for some funding opportunities for the implementation of the plan.
It's hard to find anything to add to all the great comments that have been made so far. And I wasn't even born in St. Louis. I wasn't even born in Missouri. So I did not graduate from high school in St. Louis. So it's really hard to talk about St. Louis. But the thing I have to say I love about St. Louis is the love of the residents of their neighborhood. You know, I live in the city because I love the city. It is inspiring to see people's passion for the neighborhoods where they live. You know, I know about the Ville. Everyone should. And to be able to bring that history to life is so important. And it's just really inspiring to see the work we've done to create this plan. The collaboration between the residents and the professionals has been really great. And I really look forward to seeing it implemented. And on that, I need a motion. For, oh, do you have recommended language, please? Please.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation of the planning commission adopt the neighborhood plan for the Ville, the Greater Ville, and various neighborhoods. As a neighborhood plan, subject to correction of a few minor errors and as a supplement to the city's comprehensive.
So move.
Second.
All right. Motion by Alderwoman Sarnier, second by Commissioner Fowler. Call for vote.
Alderwoman Sarnier.
Aye.
Commissioner Banton.
Aye.
Commissioner Fowler.
Aye.
Commissioner Hubman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hayden. Aye. Commissioner Miller. Aye. Commissioner Williams.
Abstain.
Chair Boaz.
Aye.
And the motion passes with
7 ayes. And 1 abstention.
Congratulations. Report? Yes, yes.
That's my report. Before we get to the final report, I wanted to, just thank everybody again, but this is a different subject. I'm passing out a little information I'd like the staff to consider for our next meeting regarding gas stations in our zoning code. And I think we are having an opportunity as we move forward in our zoning process, talk a little bit about gas stations and their impact on the quality of life in the city of St. Louis, and maybe even break out something special on that. So, Miriam, you might when you talk about that. Kansas City, I attended the Missouri Planning Conference. Kansas City had a very good strategy for working with their police department, their zoning and health and building officials on dealing with issues they were having with gas stations. And also set up design criteria for stations as well. And I think that's something, they don't have all the problems solved. I don't think we will either, but I think it'll give it's a tool that we can use as we go forward in our zoning process to kind of give more direction to our code officials.
And Marion convened a committee that's working on the zoning code update a couple of weeks ago. And one of the participants on that committee was a city official that works on getting those gas stations and convenience stores to behave. And so there was a good input that we heard at that time.
Yeah, and just another, I mean, in a way, it's relevant to the neighborhood plan too. An important theme in a lot of the even early discussions with like diagnosing the problems with our zoning system. I think there are policy shortcomings relating to things like advocacy, convenience stores, or other uses that have not properly located and properly managed and go sideways and become quality of life issues. So there's a policy side of that, but also just the lack of enforcement tools and enforcement capacity in the city are an enormous issue that is raised again and again. So that's just to share that I think in that process, we're going to be looking deeply at all the enforcement tools we can build into the new code. There's some that are missing, like there are no penalties, for example. Or, there are building kind of property maintenance, but not zoning maintenance. There are no revocation tools, all sorts of things like this. But I think we're all trying to fly the conversation about there's a potential for the city to invest in enforcement capacity. The city used to have zoning inspectors, does not currently, things like that. So I just really appreciate these conversations at this point that you, Commissioner Miller, very good percent grade. And I know that in terms of the same sharing that.
Director's report. Oh, he said, and that was her. Nothing for the executive director's report.
My report was the summary of tonight was terrific.
Okay, all right, great. All right. That's the end of our business for this evening. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So move.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.
Yay.
Pocket.